Hi, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts and review on Say You Swear by Meagan Brandy. So this book, I read it recently in April and it became one of my all-time favorite books. It was just so good. So I really just wanted to make a video talking about it because I just have so many thoughts on this book. I don't do full-length reviews for every book on my channel. I'll usually talk about them in my wrap-ups, but most of the time I don't do like a full video unless it's like a book I really love or just have like a lot of thoughts on. So obviously I loved this book so much, so I wanted to make a full video talking about it, and I just have so much to say. So the first part of this video will be completely spoiler free, but I have a lot of things I need to talk about with this book, so there's going to be like a spoiler section. So yeah, I'll have it obviously marked with like the timestamps on the screen or in the description. So first I'll just kind of give like a brief summary of what it's about. I'm gonna kind of like go just based off of the synopsis from like the back of the book and like from Goodreads, because I don't want to give too much away, especially with this book. I feel like you should go in not knowing too much about it. Of course, definitely check trigger warnings or any content warnings for this book if you need to. So basically it follows Ariana. She is 18 years old. She just graduated high school and she's about to go into college. And so it's just like the summer before, she's kind of like hanging out with her friends. She has a little friend group of like 5 of them. So the first kind of like quarter of the book, it's like summertime and then they go off to college. And so basically something happens during the summer that kind of just leaves her like heartbroken, and she goes off to college and she's kind of trying to like recover from that and just kind of like get her life together, because in the first few weeks of college she's just very kind of just depressed and she's just in her room all the time. She doesn't want to hang out with anyone. She doesn't really want to do anything. She's just kind of like going to classes, doing her homework, and like that's it. And so at one point she kind of starts to like pick up the pieces of her life again with the help of someone else. And so yeah, that's kind of what I'm gonna leave it as, because I really don't want to go too in depth in this book. I feel like based on the synopsis, I mean the synopsis is really vague. Like I feel like I went into slightly more detail than the synopsis on like the back of the book, but just like based on that I had a lot of guesses of what I thought was gonna happen, and so I kind of just I feel like it's more interesting to read it that way, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna go obviously into my thoughts. If you happen to have seen my review on TikTok or Instagram, it's gonna be probably a little bit repetitive of what I said there, but the spoiler section obviously won't be because I didn't give any spoilers in my Instagram or TikTok review, but here I'm gonna be going into all the spoilers, so just giving that warning if you've seen that. Sorry if my thoughts are like repetitive from that. So going into this one, I pretty much knew it was a sports romance, and that they played football. I just heard about how amazing it was and people saying it was like one of their favorite books ever, and I also heard about how heartbreaking it was, which all of that was true once I read it. And so like I said, I loved this book so much. It's literally one of my new all-time favorite books, which I really just didn't expect that at all going into it. Like I was fully just expecting it to be just a regular sports romance, and like I knew something heartbreaking was most likely gonna happen, maybe just because people said that they cried. And so I just like didn't expect it to be what it was, and I didn't expect it to have like as much depth as it had. And basically like when I read it, I was just in the mood for like a sports romance, but I also just wanted like a really good book to read. So I went for this one obviously, and I'm so glad that I did because it was so good, and I just pretty much loved everything about it. I will say that it started off a little bit slow. I talked about this book a little bit in my April wrap up, so again this is a little bit repetitive of what I said there, but the first like 25% I just wasn't very invested in the story. I like really didn't get the hype at first. I didn't get why people were obsessing over it because I honestly was a little bit bored at first, mostly because there was a lot of side characters in the beginning, and a lot of them while I was reading it I could tell like it just seemed like they were from previous books. Like just the way that they were talking about them, I felt like I should have known who they were. So I did look into that, and it turns out a lot of those side characters have like their own books. So I didn't know that going into this one. They don't need to be read before this. Like this is a standalone. It's not like part of a series at all. It's not even like part of interconnected standalones. Like it's completely on its own, but it does feature characters that are in her other books. And I just like didn't care about them because I haven't read those books, so I just like wasn't invested with them. Like I didn't want to know about them. I didn't care to read about them. I did realize later on that some of them would come up again and they were gonna kind of be important. I am also now interested in reading their books because I liked this book so much. But yeah, like I said, I didn't know that going into it, so I just wasn't like that invested in the story at first. And also I know like I probably would have appreciated those characters and those moments a lot more if I had already read those books. But anyway, once they do go to college, I was so invested in the story. I literally couldn't put this book down once I got to that point. And yeah, I stayed up until 5 a.m. because I needed to finish this book and I needed to know how it ended. I went through so many emotions while reading this book. I was so stressed. It was one of the most stressful reading experiences that I've had ever, and that was what was keeping me up and reading it till 5 a.m. because I don't normally stay up that late, but just like the stress that I was feeling and like needing to know what happened, that's like kind of what kept me awake and like kept me reading it. And yeah, I just like couldn't put it down. I could not go to bed until I knew how this story ended. Like I knew there was no way I was falling asleep until I knew the ending of the book. And then I also just felt so much frustration and anger while reading this book. There were just different like situations that happened that frustrated me so much, and just certain characters, one specifically that made me really angry. I won't say who, but if you read it or if you've read it, then like you probably know. But also just like the happiness that I felt while I was reading it too, because there were so many cute moments that happened and I was basically just like dying at all the cute moments because it was just so sweet. The main love interest, I'll talk about him a little bit more later on, but I loved him. I literally fell in love with him. He was just perfect, and I was just dying at all the cute things that he did and all the things he said. Also, the biggest one that I felt was the pain from reading this book. It was so painful. Like the experience of reading this book, I did not expect that at all. I knew like something sad might happen because everyone said that they cried. Yeah, I cried a lot. Like it was one of the most painful reading experiences I've had. I was literally like talking about it the next day. I was telling my mom about this book and I started crying while I was telling her about it because I just like relived like what I read, you know, like I just kind of like went through it again, like all the emotions as I was telling her the story, and I cried all over again. Like I just got so invested and like attached to these characters and to the story, and it was a painful read for sure. I can laugh now because I've moved past it. I'm like okay now, but in the moment I was not okay. I'll go into why I cried and everything and the spoilers obviously, but I literally couldn't stop crying. I almost DNF'd this book, kind of. I wouldn't have DNF'd it, but I wanted to DNF it because of how sad it was making me. Like I didn't think I could continue reading like that, but yeah, I continued. It was fine. I was okay in the end. I'm okay now, but it was just really painful in the moment. So now just going into kind of the characters, I'll talk really just about the main characters. So the main character obviously is Ariana, and I liked her. Like I thought she was a good character. Like I don't really have anything to say about her. She was a likable character. I feel like she was like a good character from the beginning. I did like seeing her, I guess her development. I feel like she was like a good character in the beginning, so she didn't really need to like undergo like a ton of development or anything, but she definitely did like grow, and you know, she realized kind of what she wanted in life and like what she deserved, and I loved that obviously, and like seeing all of that, that was a huge thing that I really liked about this story. And then of course the hero of the story, I don't want to like say too much because I feel like it's not really a spoiler. I feel like you should just read it for yourself and fall in love with him the way that I did, but he was like the best book boyfriend I have ever read. He was just perfect. I am literally in love. I need more people to read this book and fall in love with this character too, because I'm just like I guarantee you'll fall in love with him and you'll love him as much as I do. And it's like I want everyone to love him, but I also want to gatekeep him because of how much I loved him, which I'm like that when I like love something so much that I just don't want like other people to hate it. So if you happen to read this book and you hate him, please don't tell me, because yeah, that would break my heart. So those were kind of my main like non-spoilery thoughts. A lot of that was again just repetitive of what I've already said on like Instagram, TikTok, and even in my wrap up. But now I want to go into the spoilers, so that obviously is going to be new stuff that I haven't like talked about before. So yeah, I'm going to go into that now. If you haven't read this book, then I would recommend not watching this part, because you should just go into this book not knowing anything about it. But yeah, obviously I loved it. It was a 5-star book and I just highly recommend this book. I just want everyone to read it, so please read it if you haven't yet. So now I'm going to go into the spoilers. So I'll first just talk about like what I thought was going to happen going into it, because I feel like these could be spoilers. But basically I thought someone was going to die. Based on the synopsis, I thought Chase was going to die. Chase is the best friend that she's been in love with since she was like 12 years old, because the synopsis mentions her like always seeing him in her future, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. So I thought he was going to die, and then she was going to like meet Noah, and then he was going to help her like heal from that and move on from that. But then he didn't die. So then I thought Mason, her brother, was going to die, because there was like one part where she was like talking to him and like just, I don't know what she said, or like she was just like thinking something about him, like it was something like nice and sweet about how, you know, he's a great brother and how close she is to him and all that. So I was like expecting that to be like her like kind of like appreciating him, like one of those one last time like appreciating him before he dies type of moments. And then he got injured at like a football game, so I was like convinced that it was gonna be him, and then he didn't die. And then I thought Ariana was gonna die because I saw one of those like aesthetic posts where they do like the little collage of pictures of like the aesthetic of the book, and one of the pictures that they showed, which I feel like this was a huge spoiler, but they showed like a girl sitting in a hospital bed and like a guy holding her hand or something. When I saw that, I was like, Ariana's gonna die. Like I was just convinced that that was what was gonna happen, and I was so upset when I saw that like spoiler because I just thought she was gonna die, and I was like, why would you include that? That's like a huge spoiler. I would have never thought that anything bad was gonna happen to Ariana, like at all. Obviously something bad did happen to her, so I was just so annoyed. Obviously that's not what happened. She didn't die, but she did have something really kind of traumatic happen to her. And so yeah, but I just remember when I saw that and I was just so mad because I had just put the book down to like go to bed, and then I saw that and then I like couldn't sleep because I was like, what's gonna happen? Anyway, so then with Noah, I never ever thought it would have been Noah. Like I never thought he was gonna be the one to die, which obviously it wasn't him. But that funeral scene for Noah's mom, the way it was written to make you believe that Noah died, when I read that, that's the part where I cried. That was like the painful part of the story. Like I just like, that was so incredibly heartbreaking. Like I just remember the feeling of when I read that, which that's something I loved. I loved how like invested I got into this book and how it like made me feel that way. I love like when books do that, and I just feel like that's when I know it was like a really good book, when I got like that invested into it. I don't think I've ever gotten so like emotionally attached to a character like that and then had them like die. Obviously he didn't really die, but you think that he's dead for like a few paragraphs or a couple pages or something. And yeah, I just like, it was just so incredibly painful to read because like I said, I was just so attached to him, and his death was just like so unexpected to me. Like I said, I would have never ever seen that coming. I'm so glad that that wasn't the case. But when I read that, I literally just started crying. Like even after reading what really happened, like because obviously I continued reading. Well, I stopped reading. So that's where I said earlier, I said how I almost DNF'd because I didn't think I could continue reading the book without Noah being in it. And I just like took a short break, but basically, yeah, I was reading it and I was like, there's no way I can continue reading this book if that happened, like if he is dead. And I just like couldn't believe that the author would do that. And again, obviously I know he wasn't dead. I'm just like wanting to explain kind of how I felt in that moment when I was reading the book. But yeah, so I stopped and cried for like a good while, and then I picked up the book and tried to continue reading it, and then I read the line where it says that Noah like looked up at her, and like the relief I felt, like I was so relieved in that moment because I was just so glad that like he wasn't actually dead. Obviously it was still a really heartbreaking scene, and when I realized that it was his mother, like I was just sad all over again, and I was just so heartbroken for Noah. Like he had such a good relationship with her, and I really loved that aspect of the story and like seeing all of that, and the fact that he like lost her made me so sad, and the fact that he had also kind of lost Ariana, that was just making me so sad for him. Like he was just going through so much, and he just deserved so much better than that. I do feel like obviously her death was a little bit more expected in a way. Not really, because I didn't actually expect it, but I wasn't exactly shocked either because it kind of made sense considering like all the health problems she had. So yeah, that was like the exact moment where I was like in the most pain and like crying the most in this book. But of course there's like the whole other part of the story with Ari like losing her memory and losing her baby. I kind of forgot about that. I have it in my notes, but that obviously was really heartbreaking too. But yeah, I remember reading that scene though, and I thought it was really obvious right away that she couldn't remember him because like he was like looking at her and talking to her, and he kept talking about how she had this like look on her face when she would look at him. So I kind of like realized that she was gonna like not remember him. And then when she thought Chase was the father and the person that she was still in love with, like my heart just broke for Noah. I was so sad, and I just like oh my gosh, it was just really heartbreaking to read that. And then of course Chase, he was the character that I just like couldn't stand, because he like took advantage of the fact that she couldn't remember, and he like took that as his sign that they were meant to be together. Oh my gosh, it made me so mad. I'm literally like, ugh, it just angered me so much. I literally can't stand Chase. Like, I don't like him at all. Obviously she stayed friends with him in the end, but I just literally don't like him. Like, he made me so angry. But I did love all of those moments of her remembering Noah without like realizing that she was remembering him, like when she cooked for the first time like without him, and she kind of remembered like what to do in the kitchen, because obviously he was kind of like teaching her how to cook. And so I really loved that specific scene where she was like remembering him. And I really loved that Mason, her brother, was kind of wanting Noah to win Ari back because he knew that they belonged together. And so it made me really happy that like all the other people in her life knew that she should be with Noah, and they knew how happy she was with him, and like they knew she belonged with him. And I like that they were encouraging Noah like not to give up on her. So I think that's kind of like my main things that I wanted to talk about with the conflict that happened. My biggest thing is that I'm just really glad that Noah got his happy ending. I was worried that she wouldn't remember. Like, I was just scared that that was gonna happen. I mean, I assumed it was gonna be a happy ending with Noah, but I wanted her to remember everything, obviously. And yeah, I loved Noah. Like, I know Ari was the main character, but Noah was like who I really just cared about and wanted to be happy. If Ari would have had a happy ending with Chase, I would have hated the book. And again, like I said, I just got so attached to this character, and I loved the ending of like Ari remembering everything, and then she goes to find him, and like she knows exactly where to find him, and she takes him like a football because his mom always got him a football for his birthday because that's what he always asked for. And I just love that. I love like full circle moments like that. And then later on she gives him like a cookbook with all of his mom's recipes, and that was really sweet too. And just that whole ending scene was so good. I really loved it. I loved how it ended. I loved just them finally coming back together when he realizes that she remembered. Oh my gosh, my heart, like, it broke, but it also like I was so happy for him. And also I really loved just the ending of that scene specifically, where they obviously come back together again and they do their whole like say you swear thing, because that was their thing throughout the book. And I just loved that. That's something I love in books. I love like when couples have like their thing like that. So it was just really cute that they had that throughout the book, and I love that that's how it ended, with them like, you know, saying that to each other again because that's like their thing. So yeah, so then obviously the epilogue, I thought it was so cute. I loved it. I was just so happy with the ending. Obviously they get engaged. I was so happy for them. I want more of them, honestly. Like I wish there was a sequel. I know there probably won't ever be one. I'm hoping that they come up in other books. I feel like they kind of hinted at her brother Mason ending up with Peyton, I think was her name. That would be great to like have another book and see more of Noah and Ari. I would like love that. I am confused on the timeline a little bit because his birthday was like on January 29th, and then the epilogue takes place on Valentine's Day. So it's been like 2 weeks since they got back together, and then he proposes to her, which I guess is fine. Like, he knew he wanted to be with her. He knew he loved her and all of that. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of felt like it seemed like sudden. Like I don't know. It wasn't sudden, but it was just like rushed. Like, I don't get why they had to get engaged. I think it's fine that they got engaged, but I just don't like that it happened so quickly, because it's literally been 2 weeks since they like got back together. But I did still think it was cute. I still liked it. I liked that he gave her that ring that his mom had saved for him, and then she gave him the cookbook and everything. Like, it was a really cute scene, and I was happy with it. I just think that timeline was a little weird. I don't know if I'm like getting something wrong there, but that's what it seemed like. So yeah, those are kind of all of my thoughts. Obviously I just love this book so much. I just want everyone to read it. It was so good. There's so many cute moments, so many cute quotes from this book. I'm obsessed with it. I read it on Kindle Unlimited and I loved it so much that I had to order a physical copy. So I can't wait to get that in the mail, because I'm just so excited to like have it and tab everything, all the cute quotes and all the moments that I love so much. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you've read this book, please let me know all of your thoughts. I would love to talk about it more because I can't stop thinking about this book. I just love it so much. Literally one of my favorite books ever. So yeah, if you're new to my channel and you liked this video, I would love it if you would stick around and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.